Come and take a class at the Alteration.
All right, everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Alter Academy. At Alter Academy, we will be taking top players' deck lists and getting insight into how they alter their hands. I have a very special guest today joining us today to go over his early Set 7 Red-Blue build. There's not one player in Lorcana right now who would not have this man on the Mount Rushmore of Red-Blue. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Red-Blue himself, the world-qualified sailor.
Oh, hello, Jeff. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, super good. I'm excited about the new cards. I'm excited about Red Blue's power into the set. Of course, we're more likely to be enemy number one, but so it's something that it will be a little bit different than the other set where we were like fighting the best deck. Now we are the best deck for sure. So yeah, it will be interesting how I'll be able to handle that.
Yeah, what are some of your early opinions on Set 7 and the power of specifically Coil?
I think it's very, very powerful, but also very skill. It requires more skills and knowledge than the ice blocks, but it unlocks more power. So like the ceiling is higher, but I also think the floor is lower on it because there will be times where you cannot use it because your hand is emptied out, or maybe you needed to not ink like for a few turns in order to be able to use in a turn in which you will be drawing right the card that gets activated by it. And so it's a very interesting card. It doesn't slot too well into the curve, so you kind of need to find its place into the curve and have the good cards to supplement it. And there's various ways to play with it within the same color combination. So this is like one of the builds that is a little bit more, that is closer to what I have been, but I'm also working like on an items list where it plays very differently as well. So like I think the card has different pockets of power, but it's not going to be all that easy. Yes, sometimes you'll be able to play it on turn 2, and if your opponent doesn't have any answers to it, you could just like play Sisus and Medusas for the rest of the games and brawls, and you're just going to run away with it. But it's not as clean as I think most people think it is. Because when people think about Red Blue, they're thinking about how all the things that they could do, right? But we cannot put all those cards into the deck, right? Like we have also restrictions on how we build the deck, and we have restriction on like different angles of attack as well. And that's even more real if we're enemy number one, right? Like people will try to attack on different angles and we'll need to adapt our deck, and so that will make potentially the power of Coil go down in some spots. So very, very powerful, but it doesn't mean that it will be oppressive, is what I'm coming down to.
Got it. Understood. Okay, so now to get into the actual alterations, you've kindly provided an early Set 7 list, and kind of the main differences I've noticed from your old Worlds list is we are upping the Sisu count for the little Sisu, and then we're getting back into the Medusa train with 2 Medusas, and then everything else is pretty standard or expected from what we've been used to. So with that, let's jump into our first mulligan simulation, alteration simulations in Alter Academy. And here, let's go through a blind mulligan on the play, a blind alteration on the play. That's going to take some getting used to on the wording to say alter, but here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually quite easy because we're on the play. We want to do the thing of making sure we don't get screwed on an inkable. We want to set up our draw engine. One of the 2 cards we want to see the most to do that will be Popsicle and Ramp on 2. And so we also have like the biggest payoff, which is the Hiram. And so I would keep Popsicle, Hiram, ship the rest. We're not looking to have this small Sisu in hand right now, even though like it's kind of like the namesake of the deck. because we don't even know what we're playing against necessarily. We don't even have like coil to make sure that it can be used, and we certainly don't want to keep on an inkable that could make our end be hard to play. And so Alpha Algo would be also a really good card to be playing on the play, because we're not as punished for playing it, right? Because it doesn't impact the board. Because we're on the play, that is not as of a deterrent, right, as it is on the draw, right? Or, like, you kind of need to impact the board as soon as possible. Here, because we're on the play, it would be good, but only if we were able to play it before turn 4. And so I want to make sure that I actually give myself the most chance at hitting the turn 2 ramp before considering too many options on 4. And I think like the most reliable one will be high ramp, because first it's inkable, and 2, it's also more powerful.
Yeah, and I think also we're sending so many uninkables back that we can be a little greedier by sending this extra Hiram back too, and not having to keep that as extra ink just because we're so likely to hit more inkables. So
that's something that I have kind of stopped doing when we went down on like 13 uninkables and stuff like that. Like I was doing it on turn 4 on in set 4 because I was on like 21 uninkables. But now that we're back on very, very like reasonable number, I'm totally okay.
You're just sending it every time?
Yeah.
Got it. Good to know. Okay, so we actually missed the turn 2 ramp, but we're on the play, so we still have some good answers. And so this is kind of a not the best hand, but you can definitely get out of this.
Yeah. You still have 2 draws to try to find it too.
Yep.
So that makes your odd again a little bit better since you have Popsicle. And here you do have Brawl to do at least something on turn 3 if need be, and you have the Tala. So I would try to keep. Well, of course we'll play Pop on turn 1, but I would try to keep Tala and Brawl in case it's like a low to the ground deck. And because we didn't ramp on 2, we might be falling out of speed a little bit. But with these 2 cards, I think we'll be fine.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. Let's do on the draw against a blind deck.
Okay, that's a very, very interesting hand. So one thing to note is that the Sapphire Coil is not, in this deck, in this build, is not something we really want to be doing on 2, specifically on the blind, right? Because there's decks, the ones that are the most difficult for us to deal with, we actually don't need the coil. Like all our strength-based removal will already be able to take out like these daisies and these piglets anyway. And so here I look at this, and this is not like something that I'm looking necessarily when I'm mulligan on a draw on the blind, but here I see an opening of like double sail into shark, and I'm like, I'm okay just going for that. And I would probably try to mulligan some cards in order to either find a Popsicle or yeah, like most likely a Popsicle. Like I think this end is missing, but also having like eventually finding a Hiram in order to replenish after we've done the shark on 4 would be certainly good. So that's like my strategy. And now how I'm gonna implement that is that I'm gonna keep both sails, shark, and brawl. So I am not looking to keep the coil. I'm not looking to keep the second shark. And the last question I'm asking is whether I should keep the Vitalosphere or not. So that would be either for ink, or if it's like the mirror match or any deck that is a little bit slower, then or maybe like green steel, where I would want to be doing Hiram potentially, then that could be the item. But when I look at like a curve where I want to play Hiram, I kind of don't want to sack non-Popsicle items all that much, because that's only like a draw 1, right? Like I spent a card to draw 2, and I have also spent like Hiram, so it's not that powerful. And specifically there, like on the draw, it's very not. And so if I would be to keep that Vitalosphere, I would say like the odds of me inking it is very, very, very high.
Very high, yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. But I think the cost is also not too high, right? Like like if I just ink it, I'm not worried about it. And since we have like already a lot of what we need, I think that's reasonable to keep the Vitalisphere just for ink, so that we can actually just go ahead and do the Sail Maui Shark. So I could see both options as viable, and I think ultimately I would play on the safer side, without knowing what my opponent is playing, and I would keep the Vitalisphere.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Just,
Okay. All right. So let's see how rewarded we get here.
oh, that's just gravy. That's very good. So like we can even like if the deck is very aggressive, we can even skip the second sail and go Tala Maui Shark. Like
Yeah.
Maui plus Shark, like that, totally reasonable curve, and just ink the rest, and that would be fine. And you can keep the brawl, right, for a little bit, because if you don't have to ink it after Shark, you can actually, if they don't respect it, because they only have a sail, right, and then you brawl, challenge something brawl, then like we've just board wiped them.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you're just back into the game instantly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. What do you think is Red Blue's biggest weakness at the start of set 7, deck-wise?
It's very hard to know if for sure. I think there's a lot of people will build their decks so that they don't just fold to it. So it will be very wide in terms of like what we need to do.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, of course, people will try to go under it and then realize that their deck is not good on the draw versus
Most everything else, yeah.
Well, even against Red Blue, I think Red Blue wins against aggro decks on the play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it will certainly be an angle of attack, but I'm not really afraid of it because these decks are not viable competitively when you're never winning on the draw.
Right. Okay.
And then I think Blue Steel is a really good deck, and I think it will be an interesting, I think it will be close to a 50-50 matchup. Will be more oppressive than them, I think, but they have the tools, and so it will be interesting. Green Blue, I have no idea if people will be able to crack the code on the archetype. It seems to be a very, very hard deck to build against a wide field, right? I think it will be a deck that's more easily targeting a very specific field, right? Like when the meta has settled, and now they can come in by knowing exactly the angle of attack that they're getting.
Okay, well, you mentioned Blue Steel, so let's do an alteration simulation against Blue Steel on the play and then on the draw.
There's 3 versions, so you need to tell me which one.
All right, well, let's say we're playing the item version with the new Tamatoa.
Okay, is it wheel or no wheel?
We'll say wheel.
Okay. So against wheel decks, one of the things that is pretty good is to deploy something that takes out their singer. So like Maui is already like a pretty good card. Hiram is good, and because sometimes they don't get the wheel, and then they need to wheel us, and so as long as we have Hiram, we can dump our hand because they don't have an easy way to deal with it, and then they wheel us into which might be something that we want to do anyway. So we need to be ramping, we need to be dealing with their Hiram, and we need to be taking out their singers. But the most important thing is to be able to actually ramp, and this hand doesn't have any of that, right?
Right.
So I'm not keeping a Maui without any way to ramp to it. I'm not keeping Sisu because that card is just like mediocre in that matchup. I'm not keeping, certainly not a second copy of Hiram. So like the 2 last cards that are doubleable, but are we on the play or on the draw?
We're on the play.
Okay.
And what are we really brawling against Blue Steel? I guess if it's wheel, they're probably not on Chicha. Yeah, they're Hiram for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. To break the parity. It's. I don't want to. No, we have so many Sisus now and brawls. I think. I would only keep Hiram.
Yeah, and then this will increase our chance of getting ramp. So let's see how we do. We like this a lot.
Yeah, and it's actually the last card too, right? So
Yeah.
the brawl, getting away with the brawl gave us the Tipo, so that's pretty good. And so now we have the Sisu that is uninkable, so we can actually go and ink the brawl play pop.
Yep. Yeah, so this looks really good. Okay.
Yeah,
but...
it is. If they go with Smee, you play Tala. If they go with Sail, you go Iron.
Right. Okay, let's do same matchup, but on the draw this time.
I think ramping is even more important on the draw.
Oh, yeah.
So I would keep Popsicle, shift the rest.
Easy as can be for this one, for sure.
There we go. Perfect hand.
You love to see
it will
these
be hard
hands.
to know. Well, Maui would be my first ink. Sorry, the Shark would be my first ink. This is not really what this matchup is about all too much. And you actually like want to play as many things as possible before they wheel you.
Right.
So like these two Popsicles in play are great. This brawl against Hiram is great. This Maui to even like tempo Maui in this matchup is fine, right? Let's say like they play their Singer, you insert with Maui, and then they're like, oh, I need to wheel into finding an answer to the Maui, or else that is dead. So the card that you didn't have to spend from your new hand has to be dealt with, and so that's really good because their new hand has to deal with something, and our new hand now can focus on the new things, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So Maui's all like a pretty good follow-up.
Okay, let's move in against Amethyst Steel on the play.
Yeah, I didn't mention it, but of course that's a deck like worth thinking about a lot because they got some interesting new tools, like not all that many, but it was already a pretty dominant deck in 2-6. So
yeah, and the Amethyst 1-drops are just disgusting compared to all the other 1-drops in the game.
Yeah, hopefully we have the best opener against that, so you don't have much to do here. So the two cards, I like when I'm on the play, I'm really conservative in terms of like I don't want to keep on inkables because basically the only thing I don't want to do is brick.
Right.
I'm gonna win if I curve out and do my thing, right? So
and we have a great curve here.
Yeah, we just have a great curve. I really don't want to brick, so I'm gonna mulligan away this Medusa. And I don't want to let it go for sure, but like, do I want to ink it? And I don't want to brawl. Basically, what I want to do is like Popsicle, Tipo, Hiram, or Tala, depending on what they opened with. But most likely Tala, because a lot of the time they'll go with Smee. And if we ever find Coil, that would be a very good follow-up, right? Like you Popsicle, Tipo, the Tipo will be able to deal with or make sure that they cannot quest infinitely with their 1-drops. And the Tala will be able to contest whatever they played on turn 2 and want to be questing on turn 3. And we could even go into Coil, Ink, and trade with Tala or do a favorable challenge, right? Because we've coiled, or I know we don't have coil. I'm just thinking about like the curve,
Right.
And we can even brawl on that turn, right? Like, and if they play Genie, so if they played like Smee, something like that, no, they could not have played because we're on the play. But anyway, there are worlds in which like we can do all those things. And one way we can lose sometimes by like a non-answer Genie, but it's less and less likely with the stack because it has so many answers to it. So I would actually like mulligan the Medusa and keep it as like that, and just ink the Let It Goes in the brawl.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially because our curve is so good. There's no play I like more than playing Grandma on turn 3.
There we go. We even got the card I was talking about. So I would try to keep. So I would for sure ink the Let It Go first, play Popsicle, and then from there try to keep everything else and ink from the cards from the top. And the first card to cut would be Brawl. Like if I need to actually ink something, I'll ink the Brawl, and that's fine. But I would try to keep the rest because the Coil is very good in that matchup.
Got it. Understood. Okay.
Yeah, because now like everything has like 3 or 4 power, and now everything dies to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're pretty safe all around. Okay, let's move on to Purple Steel on the draw.
Okay, so on the draw, you don't really have time to play a Iron on 3. Like, that's not a thing against most of the aggressive decks.
Right.
We don't want to keep Big Sisu for sure. Neither do we want to keep Medusa or Vision. We don't have time to play Vision. Both. And so I would like to sail into like a fort, like Tala would be my favorite one, and then have Maui. So I think Maui is a very good card. Specific, like that's my best opening, right? Like Popsicle, Sail, Tala, Maui.
Yep.
Now that we play 4 again, there are arguments to just ship it back and hope to see it again, but I mean, we have it there. I guess it's uninkable. So we can just keep it and keep the Sail and hope to find the Tala with these 5 mulligans plus, or multiple draws, right? We'll be able to draw on 1, draw twice on 2, and draw another one. So we'll draw 4 cards plus those 5 mulligans. So that's 9 card deeper trying to find a Tala.
All right, let's see how it goes.
Okay, more options. That's great. Now I'm reverting to another line, which would be probably to play Tipo on 2 to get rid of this Sisu in hand. In order, and then I would keep my options open for either Sail or whatever that we draw into potentially like a quick Maui. Because if it's a dock version of Amethyst Steel, the only way to deal with the shark is to strength it, and so that will be overcommitting to the board. And if you have Tipo, it's really hard for them. That means they probably didn't quest much, right? So yeah, I would keep both options open. Like if you draw Tala or anything to play on turn 3 other than Sail, we will probably play it into Maui plus Shark, right? Like we don't have to go straight to Shark, but I would keep both options open as much as possible, and that would probably mean inking the Tamatoa first, and then potentially the Sapphire Coil. Even though that card we could be finding a spot to play later on, it kind of doesn't fit the curve all too well.
Got it.
But we could play it with Sail on turn 3, so there's that. I'd keep that option open.
All right. As we're nearing the end here of our first episode, let's go through one more alteration. What deck would you like to do for our last one?
Interesting. Let's do the Ruby Sapphire
Mirror match.
Mirror match, but yeah, but the one that plays the Goofies and Manners.
Gotcha. Okay, understood. Okay, so we're on the play here.
So we want to play to that board in that matchup so that they just cannot play a quick manner. We don't care as much about their Harem because a lot of the time they can only draw 2 from them, and that's it.
Yep.
So what we want to be doing is to put bodies on board like Tala and Maui, and this hand doesn't have any of that, but it does have like ramp, which is pretty good because it can get us to Shark quickly. So that's pretty good. I probably would keep both Sails and Shark for that reason. Tipo is, by the way, pretty bad in that matchup. So like we're very happy to be seeing Sail instead.
Yeah.
We don't have any items, so I'm not keeping Tamatoa. I'm not keeping, like, Big Sisu is pretty bad in that matchup. I'm not keeping Brawl and Vision. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it is. 2 Sails and a Shark. And like I opened myself to playing a turn 4 Shark so that they cannot just like go freely and put manners or or quests with their small buddies.
Got it. Yeah, this looks good. Ooh, we don't want to see 2 pirates' lives. That's actually the first time we've actually seen it in this whole episode.
Yeah. So this is a bit of a weird one because all those cards we kind of want to see eventually, but not right now. But we need to be inking. That huge, and like the first thing we would like to get to play after having played the Maui is probably Irem and Visions. So I would start by inking a Pirate's Life for sure and see.
Oh, this is what our mulligan was after.
Yeah, I would ink a Pirate's Life.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Understood. Got it. Okay, let's do our last one. Same deck on the draw, though.
So it gets even more important to put bodies on board on the draw because like the early mana is even better. The Vitalosphere is pretty good because it can help us get the mana out with Chart, for example. Everything else is pretty meh. Yeah, I would keep 1 Vital and chip the rest.
Yeah, this is not usually the hand we'd like to see, but we have a high chance of getting some options. But again, this is not the best hand, but it is workable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So likely we're inking the Pirate's Life, or maybe the Vitalosphere, and then just getting to Tipo, and hoping we're drawing into a Tala or
A 4-drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, S4iler, thank you for joining us today on the first episode of Alter Academy. If you guys want to check out S4iler and get some more experience on Red Blue, he has a wonderful Metafy where you can get guides and coaching and just be one of the best Red Blue pilots there is. So highly recommend that if you haven't done that already. And it's just been an honor to have you as the first guest on this show, and hopefully we will have you back sometime in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks everyone for tuning in, and yeah, talk to you soon.